Hello, my name is Charles Sabatos. I was a member of the International Wizard of Oz Club in the late 1980s, and I wrote a couple of stories, two of which were published in Oziana, and one I'm going to read today called The Merchant of Oz, uh, also with the subtitle A Long Hidden Episode in Ozian History Between Dorothy and the Wizard and Oz, and The Road to Oz, published under the name Chuck Sabatis. And this story, I believe, won the Osmopolitan Convention Fiction Prize, if I remember it correctly. And it was published several years later in Oziana, partly because it was a longer story and they needed to find space for it. And this story had two purposes. It was inspired by William Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice, which I had read in high school. So I wrote it around that time. And one of my goals was to solve some of these mysteries and contradictions that Oz fans like to discuss. And everyone has slightly different explanations for some of these issues, but this was the best way that I could resolve some of them using these classic Oz characters, but in ways that were inspired by William Shakespeare. So I will begin my story, The Merchant of Oz. To tell you the truth, I don't know why I'm feeling so downhearted today, murmured the shiny Tin Woodman of Oz as he walked through fields of grain near the city of the Winkies. I think I understand your problem, Nick, replied his straw-stuffed friend, the Scarecrow, who was strolling beside him. After all, you have such responsibility as Emperor of the Winkies. That would be enough to put anyone under stress. My slight duties as Royal Treasurer make me anxious enough. I'm sure that not even my remarkable brain could handle the duties of governing an entire empire. Don't be so modest, Scarecrow, said the last member of the trio, Jack Pumpkinhead. You did a fine job ruling all of Oz, even if only for a short while. Besides, the Winky country is quite a delightful place. I'm sure the trouble is that musty old castle Nick's living in. Didn't you just take the Wicked Witch's old castle and fix it up a bit? You should build yourself a brand new palace. Then your problems would surely be over. Good idea, approved the Emperor of the Winkies. I'll look into that when we get back. I'm glad you think so, Jack murmured, his widely carved smile belying his nervousness. You see, I wanted to ask you a real favor. What is it? The Tin Woodman asked curiously. You know, Nick, when I wear one pumpkin head too long, it rots, so I have to plant new ones. But I can't do it in the Emerald City. Besides, I'm a farmer at heart, and I'm starting to miss the country. Well, prompted the Tin Woodman, I'd like to plant a permanent pumpkin farm in the Winky country, Jack Pumpkinhead blurted out. Why, of course, Nick Chopper. I know a nice bit of land near the Winky River that would be perfect. Thanks, Nick, but I need a favor, Jack said. I thought that's what I was giving you, the Emperor said. No, this is a big favor, the Pumpkinhead murmured. I need some money to cultivate the fields and build a house. About how much money? Nick asked suspiciously. 3,000 Ozpence, Jack mumbled. That's incredible, the Tin Woodman burst out. Couldn't Ozma lend you the money? No, the Scarecrow broke in for the first time in a while. The wizard's starting a lot of new projects, and all of the money in the royal treasury is tied up for now. Well, I don't have any money either, the Tin Woodman apologized. I'm having a yellow brick road paved through the Winky country, and the rest of my savings will be going toward the construction of my new palace, and I just wouldn't have the heart to impose an extra tax on my subjects. Oh, I wish I had more money. Nick, there are plenty of lenders in the Emerald City, the Scarecrow interposed. Why don't you come with Jack and me when we go back to the Emerald City tomorrow? You know, that's a good idea too, the Tin Emperor commented. Jack, I'd be glad to let you borrow on my credit. Thanks, Nick, Jack Pumpkinhead burst out gratefully. Don't mention it, the nickel-plated Emperor modestly said. It's nearly sunset, interrupted the straw man. We'd better start back if we're to reach the castle before nightfall. Ever since Dorothy went back to Kansas, I've missed her more than ever, sighed Princess Ozma of Oz. I want to bring her back with the magic belt as soon as possible. Perhaps for your next birthday party, ma'am, suggested Ozma's personal attendant, Jellia Jam, as she bustled about the royal boudoir, dusting and cleaning. But I wouldn't do it too suddenly. She might be annoyed or frightened. Good idea, Jellia, the ruler of Oz told her graciously. Speaking of ideas, you should hear the one that the wizard suggested. I'm so glad we have the wizard back for good, Jellia broke in loyally. You must admit that he's doing a lot to help the Emerald City these days. Wasn't it a clever idea to finally build a stable for all of the animals that have come here to live? The groundbreaking ceremony was so exciting, and it seems the whole town has a new life now that he's come back. I think it was quite generous of you not to hold a grudge against him, ma'am. Look how much good he's doing now. Oh, I really don't think he meant me harm, Jellia, protested the lovely little fairy princess. I'm sure that Mombi just intimidated him into giving me up. Besides, all that happened when I was just a baby, and I don't even remember it. Well, what were you going to tell me about? Jellia inquired. Oh, yes, the princess exclaimed. Thank you for reminding me. You know the reception that Queen Zixi of Ix has invited me to come to in 3 months? Well, I was worried because I'm only permitted to bring one escort. I wasn't sure how to choose someone without hurting anyone's feelings. Finally, I was talking with the wizard and told him the problem. He proposed a wonderful solution that he'd seen once in a book. I'll set up 3 chests, one of gold, one of silver, and one of emerald. And whoever wants to escort me to the royal reception has the right to choose one of them to open. Whoever picks the correct one first may accompany me to Ix. Sounds like a lot of work for just one party, Jellia observed dubiously. Couldn't you just pull names out of a hat or something? No, Ozma laughed. It'll be good practice for the wizard to improve his mastery of real magic. There came a faint knock at the door. I'll get it, ma'am, Jellia offered, scampering from her duties to admit the visitor. She was pleased to see the familiar burlap face of the scarecrow. Please come in, the maid said. Princess Ozma is in the other room. She opened the door wide for the straw man to enter. Hello, Scarecrow, Ozma called out gaily. How was your visit with the Tin Woodman? Oh, it was fine, replied the straw man as he sat down on the plush cushions of a sofa. In fact, Nick came back with Jack and me to the Emerald City. Where are they now? Ozma asked. Why haven't they come too? Oh, they will, the Scarecrow assured her, but they went to secure a loan for Jack. Why in Oz would he need a loan? Ozma asked, and why couldn't we just give it to him out of the royal treasury? Well, the straw man began, Jack has been wanting to move out to the country for quite a while. He didn't want to hurt your feelings, but ever since the dangerous pumpkin shortage, he's not taking any chances. I would have been perfectly willing to give him the money for his pumpkin patch out of the royal treasury, but all of the money is being spent on the stables and other improvement projects. Oh, money, fretted the little princess. It causes more problems than it solves. Jack Pumpkinhead and Nick Chopper strolled along the streets of the Emerald City until they reached a large, extravagant house near the city wall. Unlike all of the other homes in the Green Capital, it was painted in a gaudy shade of blue. This certainly seems to be the place, the Tin Woodman commented wryly. I've heard that this merchant is proud of his Munchkin heritage, but this is ridiculous. I guess that's why he's called Bold Key the Blue, said the Pumpkinhead sincerely. After a slight silence, the Emperor gasped, You're right, Jack. Your head must really be getting soft. Let's get this loan as soon as possible. He thumped hard upon the heavy oak door, his knuckles serving as effective knockers. I hope he's here, Jack Pumpkinhead mused. I'm sure he is, the Tin Woodman said. When I sent him the message, he made me an appointment for 4:30 this afternoon. How much do you know about him, Nick? Jack asked. Only what the Scarecrow told me, the Emperor replied. Bold Key was such a prosperous merchant in Munchkinland that recently he came to the Emerald City to become a moneylender. Everyone who's worked with him says that he's extremely fair. Well, that's good to know, said Jack Pumpkinhead. Then the door was opened by a rather plump young woman in a long blue dress. May I do something for you? She asked. Yes, Nick said. We're here to see Bold Key about a business matter. The young lady smiled. I'm Margalot, Bold Key's daughter. Won't you come in? Father's in the sitting room. Sitting on a blue chair, puffing blue rings of smoke, sat a man in a blue velvet suit. The most prominent feature of his wizened face was a large blue mustache. As the two visitors approached, they could see he was lost in melancholy thoughts. Boldkey the Blue, I presume, the Tin Woodman said. The wealthy Munchkin turned as if breaking out of a trance and then rose. Why, Nick Chopper, what a pleasant. You know me? Asked the Emperor of the Winkies. Yes, of course, said Boldkey, but only by reputation. What can I do for you? My friend here would like to borrow some money, the Emperor prompted, turning to Jack. Boldkey, this is Jack Pumpkinhead. Pleased to meet you both, the money lender smiled. How much would you like to borrow, Jack, and for what purpose? I'm planting a pumpkin patch in the Winky country, and I'll probably need about 3,000 Ozpence total. I can easily lend you that amount, said Boldkey. Of course, the money must be repaid within 3 months, and I need some collateral to collect in case you are unable to do so. Well, stammered the Pumpkinhead helplessly, I really have nothing to give. All that I really own is this one set of clothes. In fact, that's why I'm building this place. But I'd be glad to give you one of my pumpkins. No, demurred the man, I really would prefer more valuable. I do have an idea if you find it agreeable. Chuckling apologetically, he turned to Nick Chopper. Would you be willing to donate, say, a pound of your superb tin, which I could cut off wherever I wanted, if Jack is unable to repay his loan? Of course, that seems fair enough. As Boldkey prepared a contract on a piece of blue parchment, Jack Pumpkinhead turned to his metallic friend. Look, Nick, you really don't need to do this for me. I'm sure there are other moneylenders we could borrow from. Nonsense. The Scarecrow recommended Boldkey, and his terms are quite reasonable. It's not that, Nick, he said quietly. Did you see the look in his eyes when he stood up and saw you standing there? It was frightening. They seem like fair terms, but what if something goes wrong? Don't be silly, the Emperor of the Winkies chided him. Why, in 3 months, my palace will be finished and I can easily pay him back. Or even if that doesn't work out, you'll have some nice pumpkins to sell. Besides, he seemed like such a nice man. Who else would have agreed to such ridiculous collateral as a pound of my tin? I trust the arrangement is satisfactory then? Boldkey broke in. When the two companions nodded, the moneylender pulled a tiny pouch from a pocket in his vest. This is a magic sack, he explained. It draws coins from my storehouse in Munchkinland and will not become empty until you have reached your limit of 3,000. Simply sign this document and please remember to repay the money within 3 months of today. He showed them where to sign the sheet of parchment. After the Tin Woodman had signed his name at the bottom and Jack had scrawled a crude J, Boldkey handed the Pumpkin Man the little bag. Thank you, he said. It's been a pleasure doing business with you. Margolot will show you out. Long after the two Ozian celebrities had left, Boldkey sat in his chair, staring maliciously at the ceiling. Dear old Nick Chopper, he mused. After all of these years, he's finally within my grasp. Chapter 2. I hope you won't discriminate against me because I'm not alive, said Tick-Tock, the mechanical man. No, of course not, Tick-Tock, my dear, said Princess Ozma. Please come in. You're the first one to try the magic boxes. She opened the door to her boudoir and allowed the copper man to step through. The 3 decorated chests sat on a table beside the wall. Now let me think, Tick-Tock pondered in his metallic voice. This emerald box is so attractive, I suppose it is the one I must choose. All right, Ozma agreed, smiling cryptically. She pulled a large emerald key from her pocket and handed it to Tick-Tock. As the mechanical man unlocked the box, an animated toy dragon floated out and suspended itself about a foot in the air. Then it began to dance and sing in an amusing squeaky voice while little sparks came from its artificial mouth. At the sound of my voice, you will know you were wrong. You have made a bad choice, so here ends my song. Oh well, Tick-Tock winced. Perhaps another reception. Don't you like the magic boxes? Ozma asked proudly. The wizard made them. Quite clever, said the mechanical man. I will be sure to compliment him personally. What's wrong, Tick-Tock? Ozma teased. Are you disappointed that your special mechanical brain couldn't choose the right one? Ozma, as you must know, I am incapable of sarcasm because I have no emotions. Likewise, I cannot be disappointed at losing an opportunity to escort such a lovely maiden as yourself. Why, thank you, Tick-Tock. Ozma blushed. How very sweet of you. Now you must understand you are not to reveal your knowledge of the magic boxes to anyone. Well, which one is the box? Asked Tick-Tock. Ozma smiled. I'm afraid that you'll have to wait until someone picks it. The Wizard of Oz was standing in his workshop. Lined up before him on a table were his famous 9 tiny piglets, which he had received from a sailor in Los Angeles, and which he had brought with him upon his return to Oz. Wizard, squeaked one of the tiny creatures, the reason that we have asked to speak with you is this. We'd like to see our parents again. What? Exclaimed the wizard. I always thought that you'd come from the island of Teensy Weens, where everything is smaller. No, another piglet corrected. We are really the children of Professor and Mrs. Swine who live in the Munchkin country. We were kidnapped as piglets, explained a third. Well, as younger piglets, anyway. We ended up on that horrid island and were eventually captured and sold to you. Why tell me before? The wizard asked. Well, squeaked a fourth piglet, we thought you might be mad. So, said the wizard sadly, would you rather go back to live with your parents for good? Oh no, a fifth protested. We want to stay with you and Princess Ozma and learn lots of new tricks. But we miss our parents dreadfully, yet another chimed in. Well, I'll certainly take you back if you would lead me the way, the wizard consented. I'll ask Ozma if I may ride the sawhorse, and I'll have to pack a few magic things. Come with me. The 9 tiny piglets leaped into the wizard's huge pockets. Then the old man strolled hurriedly out of the workshop and started down the steps. When the wizard entered Ozma's room, the princess was still chatting with Tick-Tock. Ozma, may I borrow the sawhorse? He asked. I'm going to do some traveling in Munchkinland for a day or so. Certainly, Ozma said, but I'd start quickly if I were you. It's already getting late in the afternoon. Goodbye, Father, Margolot said obediently. I'm off to conduct some business, Boldkey said busily. I should be back around midnight. Remember to keep the doors locked and not to let anyone in. Yes, Father, said Margolot. Why should I do such a thing? That's my girl, said Boldkey approvingly. See you later. Goodbye, Father, the young woman replied. It was nearly sunset. Margolot was sitting at her bedroom window. The window faced the eastern city wall, so no one noticed when a rather feeble gray bird swooped down and landed on the windowsill. And in the dusk, nobody saw Margolot open her window and allow the bird inside. The bird landed on Margolot's bed and slowly grew and transformed until it took the shape of a crooked, middle-aged man. My dear Margolot, I have come. Oh yes, darling Nicodick, she said. Everything worked out perfectly. My father is gone and I'm ready to leave. Are you certain that you want to marry me? He asked. After all, I'm far older than you, and you surely have your choice of any number of younger men. Nicodick, Margolot said dreamily, you're not much older than I, since all aging has stopped in Oz. And ever since I was young and you lived in our small Munchkin village, I've admired you and dreamed that I might be your wife. Do you wish to take anything with you? He asked. No, said Margolot. I am starting a new life, fresh with you. Let us go then, said Nicodick. He murmured a magic word, too low for Margolot to hear. Then he slowly transformed back into the old gray bird. Margolot became a lovely young blue jay. The two flapped their wings and flew out together through the window, over the wall, to freedom. The next morning, Ozma heard a knock at her door. She jumped up to answer it and found that it was the Scarecrow. Good morning, Scarecrow, said the princess. Good morning to you, Ozma. The word is spreading through the palace about your magic boxes, and I can't wait to try them. Why, of course, Ozma said. They've been so much fun, and no one has guessed the right chest yet. It takes someone with real intelligence, the Scarecrow boasted. Pride goeth before the fall, Ozma quoted. So does summer, the straw man chuckled. Now show me these mysterious chests. They're in my boudoir, said the princess, beckoning him inside. Choose well and choose wisely. Perhaps the emerald one, the Scarecrow mused. No, that would be too obvious. Maybe the gold one? No, it seems too bright and attractive. But the silver one, I've always had a preference for silver. Why? Perhaps in a previous life I lived in the land of silver. He laughed heartily. Well, Ozma, this guess is as good as any. Please give me the silver key. Ozma reached into her pocket and pulled out a large silver key. The Scarecrow tensely pushed it into the keyhole and lifted the lid. Suddenly, a huge face jumped out toward the Scarecrow, who jumped back in fright. He saw that it was painted to look like a pumpkin and that its neck was a giant spring. It growled, If gaudy old silver is what you desire, then you are not worthy to be Ozma's squire. You can sit home and think of this fix while Ozma is off in the kingdom of Ix. Well, the Scarecrow muttered, at least it's creative. This is the end of chapter 2, and the story will be continued in the next segment.